this is the driving idea behind the president attempting to protect our shores. And we have a law, federal law, posse comitatus, that actually says that you cannot use the military, even though it's under civilian control, to do law enforcement job. But I see no problem with them being involved to hold people for the sake of, they can't arrest somebody, but they can't hold them where there's an invasion on our shores. I think that is what the military's for them to outright be given the opportunity, except under a disaster circumstance where there is a governor or a president who declares martial law. This is not martial law, this is protecting our country. And I think on the borders is entirely different than inside necessarily the United States and our cities, where there would be federal control, which is what we would all oppose to. We would want our Texas government, our local government, to be able to do these matters. But the facts of the case are, they're really not given the jurisdiction. It's a federal matter. So since it's a federal matter, I'm very comfortable with the president looking at a number of factors. What is one of them? Well, one of them is that we would actually encourage, when I was at AT&T, we would do two things: either encourage somebody to do something, that's called incenting them, or we would charge them money to do something. Well, in this case, we ought to encourage these other countries through us giving them things. What are some of the things we could give them? Well, healthcare clinics. There's no doubt in your mind or my mind, we're a very benevolent country. We care about people. We don't like polio. We don't like measles, but there are outbreaks all over the place in these countries because the world has gone a long way from getting inoculated now. I mean, it just has happened. People aren't sure what's in that shot. So we can encourage it. Second thing, we can encourage by the building of opportunity of their infrastructure. As you know, a number of these countries, notwithstanding Nicaragua, but a number of these other countries have had natural disasters that have caused the devastation of their infrastructure. Others are just things that have taken place because of socialism that have destroyed those countries, these governments that want to ruin and throw away the free enterprise system. Just like California. This has happened down in Venezuela, it's happened in a number of other countries. So we can incent them to do that. But short of that, I would say it's in America's best interest to do that, because we're going to lose our sovereignty. Next, you're going to have the wisdom to really push me to do what I think is the right thing. But we need to do this across the country to get a border bill done, to get an immigration bill done, to do the things that are about common sense. And I've talked with you about that before. I've been very open with it. I'm for what's called a guest worker plan. I'm for a guest worker plan. I don't know if you remember at Saxe High School, just 2 years ago, we held a great big town hall meeting. There are a number of churches that came to me, and we sat down afterwards for an hour and talked to them. What does guest worker plan mean? Well, guest worker plan should mean, and it does to me, two things. Number one, and they're the two requests that come out of people who are here illegally. Number one, they want a legal status. They want to be able to buy insurance. They have jobs. They have cars. But legally, they cannot get, in lots of ways, insurance, a bank account, and other things that allow them to have the instruments that are here. I'm for that. I'm for them paying for their insurance. I'm here for them to pay their taxes. I'm there for them to do these things. But the second thing is, and to allow them to work. And while that's a sticky wicket, it's not. It means no pathway to citizenship unless you go back and we choose to do it like anybody else. We're not gonna offer special provisions that allow you to go to the head of the line when there are a lot of other people who are in that process. And this has been very controversial. It's been controversial in Washington. Many conservative people say, no, it's the wrong thing to do. If we do not do this, it will be done the other way. And it's just like if we do not fix healthcare, if we do not fix immigration, it will appear as a giveaway program courtesy of Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party. So we really have to talk a lot of reality. So I think this is probably, while we would favor the position that we're in a position that is normal and regular. And so I will be looking at not only your young mayor and your young council people, but I will be looking at each of you to say, I need you to know what the plan might be. What is that plan short of us giving it all away? And I've done that many times, but I think more people are actually listening today because they see the threat. Mayor, bottom line is this president needs to protect this country, not give it away. And any Democratic president, including the last one, is encouraging this behavior because they're trying to overrun our country to make us the next poor country in the world.
Well, you know, this caravan thing started with 190 people, you know, down there in Honduras, and it's right now estimated to be somewhere over 7,000 people, and it just keeps growing and keeps growing and keeps growing, and they keep getting closer and closer to our borders. And
they're about 1,000 miles away right now.
And they say, and when you get that many people storming like they did in Guatemala and even in Mexico, I mean, the barriers didn't mean anything. And the Federalists couldn't stop them in Mexico. And they were flooding the river at the Guatemala and Honduras border. And I really am concerned about this whole situation when they get to our border can become a real violent tragedy in a heartbeat. And I don't know really and truly, I have no clue what we can do about it. But this morning they were talking about in different news cycles that they were thinking about hitting Arizona and California rather than coming into Texas. And that means a pivot because they're on an eastward kind of march and pivot and going north and west through some of that really tough terrain up there. And anyway, I mean, what will happen, do you think?
Bruce, I am like you. I don't know. I will be quite blunt about this. We have been back, members of Congress have been back home. United States senators have been back home. The administration has the authority and the responsibility, number one, to follow the law. And the Department of Justice has lots of people who have looked at not only law and precedent, but it has an initiative. And I will tell you that we have rightly or wrongly, we have a form of government that has a strong chief executive. And the chief executive of the United States has a sworn duty to preserve and protect and defend the United States of America. And to me, I'm not president, but if I were president, I would use that as a clear signal that they would not enter the United States of America without us having a plan. And so I trust that the president will determine what that is. Before, there were 60,000 people that came at one time. 17,000 children, of which 83% were unaccompanied minors. And there was a furor here because we provided dentists, doctors, and an ophthalmologist or optometrist to give every single one of them a full medical evaluation. and people wanted them simply to be dispersed across the country. I think what the president did was the right thing, was to give a full evaluation up to and including shots and inoculating them, and he caught grief for that. Once again, grief on the other side. They could care less about a border of this country. They could care less about the influx of people who many times come simply to be taken care of, rather than an understanding that we've got to pay for it. The Dallas County judge announced anybody that wanted to come here, they'll take care of them. Well, that competes against our school system. That competes against our students. That competes against our desire to try and control and take care of the things we have. We're a benevolent state also. We all know that without a lot of fanfare, President Bush said these students will not have to beg to come to school. They can come to school and have free public education. Well, this is a different matter when you're inviting thousands of people to come invade your schools. It's costly, and it cost us back then $1 billion, the federal government. Over each year they've calculated, and it will get more expensive because of what we did, and the local governments are paying $1 billion. That's your money, and I think we ought to have a say in that. So I expect the president to stop this. I expect the president to repel it. I expect that if this were a bunch of bees that were coming up to invade our bees, which, as you know, we've had before, we met them at the border. We had to, in colonies of bees, we took immediate action to avoid what they might do. I'm not saying these are bees. I'm saying it was a threat at what we have in this country. And our bees are what provide our farming and agriculture to survive. And this is a real threat against this country.
I don't know if anybody